Alrighty, we are back. So, last time, we journeyed here to Charlian and got a tour, and now we're gonna go talk to Kryle about what our next steps are. Ooh, it's a big old map. Feeling refreshed and alert, our colleagues should be wandering in soon, so I suggest we stay here and wait for them to join us.
Pray forgive me. I was delayed.
It's fine, Oriange. We're all here now.
Let's get down to business then, shall we? Come what may, we must prevent the Telophoroi's plans from coming to fruition. At present, I see two paths for gathering the information which may aid us in achieving that goal. The first involves an investigation into the change which has come over Charlian, not to mention the recent inscrutable behavior of the Forum. As most of you know, the 99 members of the Forum are elected from the general populace. This alone guarantees a plethora of opinion with regards to foreign policy. The bibliotheques, for example, are a group of conservatives which would have Charlian focus on recording history, while remaining entirely uninvolved in the making of it. And at the other extreme, we have advocates for proactive diplomacy and direct intervention. My grandfather Galef was one such member, as was Archon Louisois. Yet despite our diverse factions and philosophies, the recent vote to deny Eorzea's request for assistance was unanimous. Even more concerning was the fact that many cited other, more pressing duties as justification for their recalcitrance.
Fortuno's refusal in Gridania had those same undertones. 'Twas as if, having stared unblinking into the face of impending doom, he had simply turned away to pursue something more important. But what could that possibly be?
A mystery indeed, and one which I ask for your help to solve. Our future may depend on it. As for our second potential path, it concerns a request made directly to the students of Baldessian. Our organization was founded primarily to study strange and unexplained phenomena the world over. Mysterious relics and ruins, arcane disturbances, and so forth. Compared to our more isolationist Charlian colleagues, we have strong connections overseas, namely with scholars and academics who share our passion for the unknown. The request in question comes from one such acquaintance, Nidana, an alchemist residing in distant Thavnair. Her missive describes the sudden appearance of a tower, and the subsequent summoning of what I can only assume is a lunar primal.
Uh-oh.
In response to this threat, the satrap of Radzat-Han, the individual who governs the city-state, has instructed the alchemists to find a means to deal with the spire.
The artisans of that land are heirs to an ancient tradition, one rather unlike that of their Uldan counterparts. It is possible, nay, probable, that they have gleaned truths unattainable by Eorzea or her Far Eastern allies.
They do, in fact, appear to have a strategy in mind, though it will require further research. To that end, they have requested an introduction to a capable warrior shielded by the blessing of light.
Oh, hey, that's me.
Assuming we divide our forces to pursue both of Kral's lines of inquiry, then having you join the group heading to Thavnair would seem the obvious choice. but the investigation in Sharlayan is of vital importance as well. Equal, I think, to the Thavnarian one, given that the fate of the world may hinge on the results of both.
Yes, it is quite the quandary. Though it is a great imposition and an altogether too common one, our efforts would be more likely to succeed were you to lead the charge on both fronts. You are indeed our champion. As to which task to tackle first, we will defer to your decision. Let us next decide how everyone else might best be assigned. As for myself, I shall continue what I've begun in Sharlayan. I should also like to steal the services of an Archon or two.
And thereby gain access to a greater range of reading material. I will help with that.
Allow me to offer my assistance. I have some small amount of experience in the field of research.
Alize and I would also like to help, if you would have us.
Anything to understand even a fraction of what our father and the Forum might be thinking.
Of course! The more the merrier.
Right. The rest of us will make the journey to Thavner. Thoughts? Objections?
I passed through Thavner on my way to infiltrate the Empire, and though I'm not qualified to give a guided tour, I did gain a sense of where things lie.
Oh, convenient.
I'll be happy to have you along then. So for this group, it will be you, me, and Urianger.
Give me a moment afterwards, and I'll supply you with all the details of Nadana's request. Consider this hall our rendezvous point once our respective tasks are complete. May our investigations prove fruitful.
Alright, so my first time through, I went to Thavner first, so we'll do it the other way around this time. We'll stay in Sharlayan first. Hitting the books. An unsettling change has come over Sharlayan, but together we will divine the underlying cause for the Forum's callousness. As I mentioned before, however, questioning the councillors directly is a fruitless endeavor. They seem to have already come to a consensus as to what, and how little, they are willing to divulge. Which is why I began scouring Sharlayan's archive of historical records for any hint of a connection to the final days. Suffice to say that progress has been slow. There are only so many dusty pages one can skim in a day. But now that I have this band of willing reinforcements, the search should proceed all the swifter. Let us reconvene outside Numenon, shall we? Exit the annex to the right, and you'll find the archives on the western edge of the woods. Okay. We'll do that. We can teleport. My directions were easy enough to follow, I hope. In any case, you stand now before the doors of Numenon, Sharlayan's grandest collection of books and tomes. This building is actually only an entrance, and one of many at that, for the archives of Numenon extend deep beneath the surface like the roots of a tree. The vast halls of the great Google Library pale in comparison to Numenon's endless maze of subterranean chambers. Any citizen of Sharlayan is free to enter and peruse its shelves. Well, most of its shelves. only Archons are afforded access to certain restricted vaults. I've dispatched Y'shtola and Raha to investigate those. Meanwhile, Alize and Alphino will help me continue my search through the stacks open to the general public. Your status presents more of a problem. As a non-citizen, you're only permitted to browse the first floor here at the entrance. Even so, there should be a number of books which touch upon Sharlayan history and foreign policy. Your task will be to find and study the relevant publications. I promise you, a working knowledge of those subjects will make it far easier to spot the sort of clues we're looking for. Let's be about it, shall we? I have told the others to meet us at the stone benches over there once they've found some promising tomes. Happy reading. Alright. We'll go this way first. Brightly colored book. The Story of Sharlayan. Long, long ago, on an island in the Northern Sea, there lived a rogaded man by the name of Yunkref. Yunkref was a student of astrology, and he divined that a flood of terrifying proportions would soon sweep over the lands of Eorzea. So it was that he built a gigantic ship, assembled a crew, and set sail for that imperiled realm. The flood arrived as foretold, and to their horror, the strangely churning waters drove the people towards the ocean. It was there, however, that Yunkref's crew hauled them aboard his ark. But the danger had not passed. A towering wave approached, threatening to smash the vessel to pieces. With only moments to spare, Yunkref wove a mighty spell of teleportation and shifted the entire ship to safety atop Abalathia's spine. So that's the that ship on top of the mountain in Alamigo that that Lisa and I went to. Refugees from the surrounding regions huddled there alongside them, but it was not long before disputes over the dwindling supply of food led to violence and bloodshed. Saddened by the sight, Yunkref gathered his crew, and his grateful passengers, and abandoned the ark to those reddened peaks. They journeyed to the coast where they built a new ship, intent upon returning to the northern seas. They landed on the beach of an island and settled upon that very spot. That settlement prospered and grew, and in time, it became the city of Sharlayan we live in to this day. Red-covered book. Roads of Old, the Colony. Many years ago, on the banks of the Thaliak and the Jordanian hinterlands, a Sharlayan colony once thrived. This settlement was originally established as a mere outpost to study the ethereal sea in the year 1311 of the 6th Astral Era. Scholars dispatched to Eorzea found the facilities wanting, and their demands encouraged a gradual expansion in structures and services. As rumors spread of a growing community of academics, the area was further inundated with Eorzean students hoping to share in the renowned wisdom of the Sharlayans. 50 years later, the Forum passed a motion to recognize what had become a flourishing town as an official Sharlayan colony. Eorzean residents took to calling the colony itself Sharlayan, which led to no small amount of confusion when discussions turned to the subject of the motherland. In response, some Sharlayan inhabitants, if pressed for a name, would simply refer to it as Emporium. Following the Exodus, however, goblins and treasure hunters claimed for themselves a corner of the abandoned colony and gave it yet another name, Idleshire. The following chapters go on to introduce the most prominent features of Idleshire. This book does not appear to contain additional information on the Forum or cover the history of the Sharlayan motherland in greater detail. Oh, dang. Leather-bound tome, the voice of a growing city. In the years which followed the founding of Sharlayan, civic policy and other matters of import were decided at the Ecclesia, a public forum at which every citizen was eligible to speak. As the city's population grew, however, this format became increasingly impractical. The larger number of participants gave rise to ever longer debates, resulting in significant delays in vital resolutions. Various measures were introduced in an attempt to curtail protracted discussions, but in the year 201 of the 6th Astral Era, it was ultimately decreed that Sharlayan would transition to a new form of governance. The nation would now be led by a body of 99 members, citizens chosen from amongst their peers by means of a nationwide vote. Thus was the Forum as we know it today conceived and created. covered book, An Introduction to the Heavens. Have you ever gazed at the skies above and contemplated the mysteries contained therein? I speak not of shifting cloud patterns, but of the vastness beyond, of the sun and the twinkling tapestry of the night. Some think the dome above us to be a finite space, yet amongst the leading thinkers of our age, one scholar's depiction of a boundless sea of stars has firmly taken root. Alas, this heavenly sea remains an unreachable, unknowable destination. There are few indeed who can explain, in satisfactory detail, why our own star is believed to revolve around the sun. It was the technologists of Alag who came closest to understanding the laws which govern that starry abyss. It was they who launched Dalamud and sought to expand beyond our earthbound existence. Having read of their ancient ambitions, I wonder, has your interest in this field of study waxed or waned? What if I were to tell you that the eternal constellations were arranged differently in the distant past, that their positions continue to shift almost imperceptibly but measurably as we journey into the future? Would it shock you to learn that the stars drift further and further apart, and may indeed do so forever? Are you eager to learn more? This book is on the wrong subject. Search for works which contain details on the forum or mention the history of Charlotte. Well, fine. Well-worn manual? Forever 20 Summers. My beloved seekers of knowledge, have you ever put learning before your health and neglected to feed the rest of your body as you should? I too once engaged in such foolish practices, but one night, engrossed in philosophical study, I had an epiphany. For all the world's mysteries that drive us to reckless abandon, we have so very few years of life in which to achieve our goals. Thus do I share with you this mantra: I am forever 20 summers young. The number itself is unimportant. You could be 19 or 23 or 40. Whatever age you are when you discover this manual, let that be the age you aspire to remain. Through mindful, healthy living, you will extend the time available to spend upon your chosen research. Another day, another moon, another summer to grasp the greater truths you pursue. In the pages that follow, we will explore the secrets of maintaining one's physical condition from biological, ethereological, and arcane viewpoints. Wrong subject. What about this one? This time-worn tome. Stewards of Wisdom. During the chaos of the Sixth Umbral Calamity, Archon Yunprept, founder of Charlian, bore witness to the madness and savagery of men brought to the brink of despair. Upon raising a settlement on an island in the northern Empty, he instructed his people thus: renounce the ways of war and pursue enlightenment through knowledge and reason. The Charlians took to heart the words of their savior and thenceforth served as stewards of wisdom. Upon a foundation of accumulated learning, they built a homeland unlike any other, a nation born from strength of minds rather than strength of arms. With knowledge of economics came shrewd trading. With knowledge of agriculture came bountiful crops. Engineering brought wells and sewers, ending squabbles over water. Wealth of expertise could be bartered for wealth and coin, and the more their wisdom spread throughout the world, the more mankind as a whole would thrive. And so it was that no matter the trials and tribulations of the age, the citizens of Charlian would live by their founder's teachings. For the sake of a better tomorrow, for the sake of a brighter star, they would eschew the tools of war and with knowledge deliver the world. You've gained a fundamental understanding of Charlian history and the foundation of the forum. Head outside to the rendezvous. Oh, there were more books. I don't get to read them now. Wait for everyone else to show up. Sorry, were you waiting long? I wanted to make sure I'd borrowed at least a few promising volumes. Alcano and Kyle should also be along shortly. I was delayed in similar fashion. As far as I could see, no titles in the Archon stacks mentioned the final day specifically, so we have no choice but to start with the tangentially relevant tomes, if they are even that. At present, the plan is to skim through as quickly as we dare, and share our discoveries as we make them. It would have been nice to invite everyone to the estate, plenty of comfortable places to read, and a ready supply of hot tea. Oh, I was always quite fond of reading outside. But it's not about the little pleasures, is it? You miss your home. It's been difficult. After our arrival, we managed to speak with one of the family servants and ask how things were. It seems our dear father has instructed the staff that even if Elfino and I were to return to Charlian, we were not to be allowed across the threshold. A harsh measure indeed. I hope that our efforts to understand his position and that of the Forum will perhaps lead to a reconciliation. We'll mend this rift one day, I'm certain of it. What of you, Graha? Have you been to visit your family, or do they not live here in the city? Ah, well, my situation is always also somewhat complicated. I was raised in Charlene, yes, but I was born rather further away. In the southern reaches of Ilsabard, in fact. For generations my people have dwelt in Corvos, a coastal region opposite the island of Thavner. The Alligans founded a city in that fertile land, and by ship brought in the subjugated tribes of the Makote to serve as laborers. Of course, the massive earthquakes of the Fourth Umbral Calamity brought an end to the Empire's reign, and when the Fifth Calamity froze the seas solid, many of the tribes still living in Corvos braved the journey back to Eorzea. My ancestors, however, chose to remain, that they might prevent the remnants of Alligan technology from being misused. Isn't Corvos under Garlean rule? For the past 50 years, yes. Some semblance of local culture remains, as is the case for most imperial provinces, but Garlemald renamed the region Locus Moenus. When I was a boy, a nearby town came under the jurisdiction of an illustrious imperial family, the nobles of House Darnus. House Darnus demonstrated a singular interest in Alligan civilization, and so my tribe was forced to consider a plan of action. For some time already, voices had been raised in favor of abandoning our ancient customs. After all, the Alligan no longer passed to our eldest children as reliably as it once had. Fear of discovery eventually tipped the scales, and the decision was made to bury our ties to the knowledge and traditions of Allag. As the last child born with the Alligan I was given over to the custody of friends and the students of Eldesia, who had me registered as a Charlian citizen. I never even considered. Forgive me, it was an unkind question. Even Thancred was taken in by Archon Louisois, was he not? Stories of adopted waifs and rescued orphans are more common among Charlians than you might think. Yet regardless of our origins, we are all provided with an equal opportunity to learn, and with sufficient perspicacity, we outsiders can even earn the vaunted title of Archon. 'Tis exactly why I have such love for this country, and why I wish it to remain a nation of which its citizens can be proud. Hear, hear. Another good reason to get to the bottom of the Forum's stubbornness, aside from the trifling matter of our impending doom. Excuse us while we try to make some headway into these books, Asuka. More company should be arriving any moment now. Wait again. We've returned with our selections. Although I must say the pickings were quite slim indeed. Mistress Kryl has already flicked through every history book devoted to disasters, and more than a few which barely made mention of them. As such, we will be looking into research papers on the Umbral calamities, as well as articles written by prominent Forum members. Perhaps their knowledge of the final days comes from an unexpected source. Speaking of which, might I ask you a few questions related to the final days? I'm the only one here who didn't witness the events of Amarot firsthand, and fear I may be overlooking critical details. Okay. My thanks. Now, where to begin? First things first, what kind of phenomena did the ancients encounter as the final days drew nigh? complete destabilization of creation magics. Yes, the unfolding catastrophe wrought havoc on all manner of life. The chaos extended to the ancients themselves, causing their powers of creation to spiral out of control. Fear and despair manifested in terrible, tangible fashion. Meteors raining from the sky, fire erupting from the ground, indescribable abominations prowling the streets. That more or less aligns with my understanding. If only the arts of creation had survived until the present day, we might have had something substantial to analyze. To the best of our knowledge, however, those techniques were not preserved or passed on. Y'shtola surmises that the closest known magic is that of the summoning ritual promulgated by the Asians. Was there aught else of note which heralded the approach of the final days? They say it began with a keening sound from the land itself. Ah yes, the Amoritines spoke of it, didn't they? We never did hear this sound ourselves, of course, thrust as we were into the midst of the madness. But it seems that each and every one of the catastrophes was preceded by this ominous noise. Eventually it resounded all across the star, and not even Amarok was spared. So the ground was crying out, you say? To be considered the harbinger of doom, it must have been quite distinctive, probably quite loud. I'll have to speak with one of Numenon's mammoths and ask if there are any books which make mention of such a sound. Last but not least, could you describe how the ancients sought to quell this unprecedented calamity? What definitive action did they take? They summoned Zodiark. Yes, with Elidibus serving as his heart, so many gave themselves in sacrifice to bring him into being. We do not know exactly how Zodiark brought salvation to the star, only that by his godlike will were the laws of nature set right. Then, once the balance was restored, the ancients offered up a further sacrifice to heal the ravages of the final days. Lives sprouted anew, and it was these fledgling souls they intended to render up to Zodiark, a trade that would have allowed them to resurrect the shades of loved ones absorbed by the primal. Or might have, had Venna and her fellows not manifested their opposition in the form of Hydaelyn. Thank you, both of you, for the detailed review. I feel much more confident now in my understanding of events. With all that freshly in mind, it does make me wonder what the Telophoroi truly mean when they speak of bringing back the final days. We've seen that what they're doing with those towers of theirs, is forcing people to summon primals a kind of catalyst? Are they attempting to mirror the conditions caused by unstable creation magics? Or are they simply using the final days as a figure of speech, a convenient metaphor for the scale of destruction they plan to unleash? But this is all just pointless conjecture at this stage. Let us return our attention to the forum, shall we? We should keep an eye out for Y'shtola, but 'tis time we began studying these research papers. Wait once more. It's a long waiting. I'm the last, am I? Well, my extended search of the Archon stacks produced one or two possibly useful books, but I wouldn't get your hopes up. If you recall, Urianger learned of the source's reflections from the Garen oracles for its potential to cause panic and confusion. That tome was deemed apocrypha and sealed away in the Great Google Library. 'Tis even less likely that knowledge of the unsundered world, not to mention the horrors of the final days, would be left sitting on a shelf for any curious scholar to find. It stands to reason, then, that my colleagues, be they Archons or Councillors, should perforce be largely ignorant of the subject. Yet when you confronted Master Fortuno with knowledge of the Telophoroi and their machinations, he scoffed at the suggestion that they posed a threat. He seemed adamant that the Forum would know if the final days were truly upon us. which only supports the conclusion that whatever privileged wisdom is guiding the Forum's behavior, it is being kept secret from the rest of the nation. Not that I mean to excuse myself from reading duty. Whether they contain mention of the final days or no, these books could yet hold something of value. You weren't thinking of leaving, were you? There's plenty of work for everyone. Time to read. You labor for what feels like an age, as Ichito's research assistant. Trial. Oh dear, you look exhausted. But what about your studies? Were you able to find any books on the subjects I mentioned? Yes. Then the day was well spent. Should you wish to read them again, a mammoth at the reference desk will point you in the right direction. For the moment, though, I suggest you take a well-deserved rest. We might be occupied with our research for quite some time. Alice has a quest for us. A seat at the last stand. Ready for a tea break, Oscar? I know I am. Honestly, my neck and shoulders are going to calcify if I don't stretch my legs and walk around for a bit. You know the last stand down by the harbor, don't you? Come and meet me near the outside tables, and I'll treat you to their coffee. It's quite good. Okay. Off we go. As busy as ever, I see. How very Charlian and no other gourmet cafe has sprung up to compete for customers. Actually, this crowd gives me an idea. Before we place an order, why don't we ask a few questions and gauge the mood of the city? I'm interested to hear what the average citizen has to say about the Telophoroi. Might even learn something new. Worth a try, don't you think? Now Alice is accompanying us. Pirondier. What's that? What is it? Can a man not enjoy a moment of private respite? If you're looking to share a table, then I respectfully request that you look elsewhere. You misunderstand, sir. We were simply wondering if you knew of the Telophoroi. These enemies of peace have promised an end to all we hold dear, and... Wait, you're that house lover, you're a girl, aren't you? And this woman with you is obviously a foreigner. Humph. I'd heard you were disowned for helping outsiders indulge their barbaric whims, and here you are giving truth to the rumor. I thank you to leave me be. I've naught to say to the likes of you. Well, I must apologize. It was foolish of me to expect an ounce of civility from one so enlightened. Come, Oscar. Hildoise? Yes, I don't believe I've had the pleasure. Pray excuse the interruption, but we were hoping you might share your thoughts on the Telophoroi and their unconscionable plans. My goodness, if it isn't the young Miss Leveilleur. My apologies, but I work in the offices of the Forum, and if word reached Master Fortuner that I was helping you... I see. We're sorry to have bothered you. Dickon? Welcome, madam. What can I offer you today? Wait, is that Mistress Alice I see there? My word, how long has it been? Far too long. Meet Dickon, the owner of the last stand. I used to frequent his cafe on occasion, between lessons at the studium. That seems like an age ago now. I remember hearing that you and Master Alphino had set sail for Eorzea. Then you never came back. Lately, there's been gossip about your father disowning the pair of you. Everything all right at home? It's complicated, and I hadn't expected complete strangers to be so familiar with our situation quite so quickly. Everyone has an opinion, it seems. Well, it is House Levier. No matter how discreet Master Fortuno may have been, news of your family's doings never stays secret for long. Things being what they are, what brings you back to the city now of all times? You have questions, and only Charlian has the answers. Tell me, Master Dickon, have you heard anything about an apocalypse called the Final Days? What? Like the end of the world? Nothing like that, I'm afraid. And that's what you're here to find, information on this apocalypse. Yes, whatever we can learn. Unfortunately, your patrons appear to be unwilling to speak with me. I wish there was more I could do to help. But maybe there is. You're a visitor to Charlian, aren't you? Then few will know your face. We should be able to pass you off as a server with none the wiser. We just finished preparing a few orders. Strike up some friendly conversation while you're setting down the food, and you might just get the answers you're looking for. Not a bad idea. I hate to ask, but what do you think? Sure. That's the spirit. Pay attention now, and I'll explain where each of these dishes needs to go. The tea set is for the chatty group sitting by the water's edge. The omelette is for one of our regulars, a Highlander by the name of Gisla. She's sitting at an outside table with a friend of hers. Behind them you should see a Makote gentleman. He ordered the oven-baked lobster. Got all that? If you're not sure, just ask and I'll explain again. Good luck. Alright. Which table is this? Ah. Cote gentleman. He had the lobster. Oh, no, this is the tea set guy. Alright. Sorry. Oh my, tea set. Lovely, thank you. The Talofa who? I'm sorry, I've never heard of them or their final days. My friends and I are somewhat uninformed when it comes to current events. Now, if you wanted to hear about ritual arcane practices of the 6th Astral Era, common or esoteric, I'd be happy to talk your ear off. Fine. Gisla. Gisla had the omelet. No, dang it, I pressed the wrong button. Ah, finally, 2468. Let's dig in, no time to waste. That doesn't rhyme. What? Little Offroy? Ah, yes, I remember seeing him in the latest Gazette. That and some grand claim about the end of days. Same old senseless warmongering. When will those fools grow tired of spilling each other's blood? Best stay out of it, I say. The Forum made the right choice, and I fully support our decision to remain neutral. Dum-dums, all of you. Here, have your lobster. At last, the oven-baked lobster is mine. You have no idea how long I've scrimped and saved and suffered to afford this heavenly dish. The final days. This is the first I've heard of it. Although that would explain why my friend has been rushed off at speed. Must be a busy time to be a gleaner. You don't know what a gleaner is. They're collectors of a sort. Travel the world procuring things that we haven't got here in Charlian. Priceless books, unusual live specimens, and so forth. So named for those folk who trail after the reapers in the fields, picking up every grain which was missed. Aye, by all accounts, gleaning is a most meticulous and demanding profession. If these Tilofroy make good on their audacious threats, then many uncatalogued rarities could be lost forever. Why else would the gleaners be buzzing about in such a frenzy? Watch the harbor and you'll see what I mean. They're carting loads in from docks all day. It's never been this hectic before, not like this. That is a huge lobster. Any trouble with the customers? Were you able to get anyone talking? Some gleaners. Interesting. They seem unaware of the final days, aside from whatever vague news the gazettes have written. Even Dickon had nothing to offer, and he's the best source of gossip in the city. If the Forum does have secret knowledge, then they've done an impressive job of ensuring no one whispers it in the wrong ear. In any case, thank you for playing the part so well. Here, that cup of coffee I promised. But let's enjoy our drink somewhere else, shall we? Maybe behind the peristyle, away from the gossips and their wagging tongues. Okay. Hello, Alize. Yes, this should do nicely. Out of the wind and out of sight. This better not be a poison mug.
When our father disowned us, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It wasn't until much later that his words began to sink in, that I began to feel the weight of what it meant. Do you remember when the decision was made to come to Charlian? Grahas said that the Forum was determined to keep us in the dark, and that Father's venomous performance was part of that strategy, to keep us at arm's length. Perhaps it was. Father argued with Grandfather on many occasions, but never with such dismissive contempt. And when he demanded what justifies the sacrifices we make in war, I honestly didn't know what to say. Neither did Alpha know, I know, but never for one moment did I believe we had made the wrong choice. So all I could do was fume silently. It was only afterwards that I realized how childish I had been. How being stubborn and self-righteous must run in the family. If I could have just mustered a civil response, then things might have turned out differently. They must be ferrying goods to Labyrinthos.
Labyrinthos?
A vast complex beneath the island. Charlian is famous for archiving knowledge from around the world. Well, that knowledge is not preserved exclusively in dusty tomes and desiccated samples. Our living library, comprised of all manner of flora and fauna, is housed and studied within that underground facility. Still, that did seem to be an unusually large shipment. When I lived here, it was rare to even see such cargo transported by boat. Wait! Didn't you hear something in the last stand about the gleaners coming and going more than usual?
I did.
Well, I think they're the ones we saw manning those boats. And gleaners answer to the Forum. If the appearance of the Telophoroi prompted this sudden burst of activity, then Labyrinthos may hold a clue as to what the Forum is planning.
Huh? Then to Labyrinthos we must go. A labyrinthine descent. We should tell the others what we've learned about the Gleaners. Go on ahead to Numenon and I'll join you in a moment. Master Dickon will want his cups back. Okay. Oh, I forgot to show off a new emote I have. Zoom in for it. I can snap like Emmett Silk. Hey, Kyle. Welcome back, Oscar. Been for a walk and cleared your head, have you? Not exactly. We did some impromptu investigating and turned up information on the Gleaners. It makes sense. The Gleaners take their requests directly from institutions and bureaucrats. But as you say, they ultimately answer to the Forum. A sudden and significant increase in Gleaner traffic and in cargo. It certainly gives the impression of an overarching plan being put into motion. Let us see what theory we can build from the facts. As Ishtola observed earlier, Numenon's archives appear to contain no information concerning the final days. Coupled with what Oscar and Alize learned at the last stand, we can be reasonably sure that most Sharlayans know nothing of that particular period of ancient history. Yet my father and his colleagues are not only familiar with the final days, but are also somehow certain that the destruction being perpetrated by the Telophoroi is wholly unlike these apocalyptic events. Moreover, the Forum claims to be so occupied by a duty of such pressing importance that they saw fit to unanimously deny Eorze's request for aid. And now the Gleaners, official agents of the state, have been mobilized on an unprecedented scale. I do not think it a stretch to conclude that the Gleaners' recent activities are in service to the Forum's secret events. In which case, our next course of action seems obvious. We visit Labyrinthos and assess the situation for ourselves, and if we're lucky, the Gleaners will be far more receptive to our questions. What should we expect down there? Oh, I would hate to spoil the surprise. As for myself, there are a few more subjects I should like to research. I may join you later, but feel free to leave behind your borrowed books and be on your way. I'll see to it that each is returned to its proper place. That would be a great help. Thank you, Raha. Let's head down the stairs over there, and I'll show you where the entrance is. Okay. Go on. Ready? Labyrinthos is not too far from here. You may find the path a bit disorienting. I'll take the lead, so stay close. Follow Alize, but don't fall behind. She's not... How am I supposed to fall behind when she walks this slow? Why are you walking so slow, Alize? Now we run, try to keep up. Finally. Up here. Okay. So go. Not far now? Okay. Ah, here we are. There's a doors down the stairs. You did remember to attune to the shard back there, didn't you? It will make your life much easier if you need to come back in a hurry. Otherwise, we should keep moving. Okay. Hello, everyone. We're all here now, yes? I've taken the liberty of securing permission for our group's descent. Right, everyone onto the lift and down we go.
Deep beneath the scholar's city shines a false sun within a fabricated sky. In any age exist those who consider the floor an extension of their bookshelves, and this vault's architects surely belonged to that special breed. If the stack grows too high, start a new one. If no room remains, then make more rooms. A simple solution at first, and then bit by bit, a profound transformation. Knowledge, buried beneath knowledge, a growing, creeping labyrinth from which there is no escape.
Labyrinthos.
Not what you expected. I must admit, the artifice is very convincing. But I assure you that we are beneath Sharlayan itself. The breeze you feel, the flowing waters you hear, all created by the hand of man.
The island is volcanic, you see, and once upon a time this great hollow must have been a reservoir for magma. It was discovered some 400 years ago, at which point it was repurposed as a storage facility for scrolls and samples and such. Renovations have continued, with nigh on no interruption to this day, with the lower levels still undergoing expansion.
Oh.
Aren't those people gleaners?
Aye, judging by their dress. They are said to work alone as a rule, but 'twould seem that rule is being enthusiastically broken today. It may be as you suspected, that they are engaged in a task apart from the norm.
Let's spread out and get some answers then.
Dun, dun, dun.
Ugh.
Kyle? You okay?
Did you call to me just now?
No.
No. How odd. I must be a bit dizzy from the descent. I'll be fine, I'm sure. Let's get to work, shall we?
Okay. And that's probably a good place to stop for now. And when we come back, we'll set to work gathering information, which is going to involve asking questions of the people we find down here. Until then.